Well, Disney's board of directors. Well, we own everything. I know. Another day, another $1 million, right? Well, we fired all of our creative types and hired a new project manager to help lead us into the future. So please give it up for the man, the myth, the legend.
Hello everyone. It's great to be here. Wow, there's more of you. It's like 3 of you. Hi, welcome to my TED Talk. So, Disney, I've heard some disturbing rumors. I've heard that you've been spending a bit too much time at the old well, remaking old movies with new flashy graphics. You got Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Pete's Dragon. That one was a curveball, but I was down for it. The problem being is that these are just the old stories. You're not putting any originality, any new ideas out there. You're not being creative. I only want to ask, where's my fucking check, you greedy bastards? Seriously, this was what I was doing. Atlantis 2? Does anyone remember that? All I had to do was walk into the office and say, hey, I just want to make a shitty little cartoon. And I turned a profit. There was no effort there. But no, you guys are so focused on the big money makers, the Cinderellas and the Snow Whites. You've forgotten the tiny properties. That's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you about all the IPs that you should be focused on, the ones that can finally make you some money. Number 1, Oliver and Company. Yeah, forgot about that one. Cute little cats and dogs. That's perfect for a family film. The one drawback was that the music was heavily reliant on Billy Joel. Didn't get him this time around. Not because we couldn't, but because he's old and gross. So instead, what I was thinking was, what do the kids love nowadays? 21 Pilots. So yeah, they're interested in your money. Give them a call. Number 2 IP you've forgotten. Black Cauldron.
Never heard of it.
Okay, fair enough. Number 3. This is the moneymaker. George of the Jungle. Now, hear me out. You guys have already made some live action movies, but the Brendan Fraser movie was technically a remake of a cartoon from the 16th century or something. So, if anything, it was like the first one you guys did. The problem being is that you didn't go far enough. What you did was left in all the cartoony aspects, like slapstick and sound effects. Who goes to Disney for cartoons? That's dumb, you're dumb. Instead, we remake George of the Jungle dark and gritty and realistic because that is what people want. Trust me, I'm a people. And as a people, I've had to pee for like half an hour while I was waiting to come on stage. So does anyone know where the John is? I can't see you through the light. I'm just... Look, I'm going to pee in the plant. Look away.
Meanwhile, the host of Shitflix await their turn.
Is that a narrator?
No, it's a new mod I have for Sassy House. It's called Expositing version 1.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I know. It's an alpha release. There's a lot of bugs in the software.
Okay. We watched a movie today.
George of the Jungle 2.
2. Now,
there's 2.
If you remember
2.
If you remember our review on George of the Jungle 1, then you're insane because we didn't do it. We just jumped straight into episode.
You're in an
2.
alternative timeline.
Yes. We decided, you know what? George of the Jungle 1's actually beloved by a bunch of people. Brendan Fraser stars in it and it's got a good following. George of the Jungle 2 does not have any of those things I just said.
No.
So
it was made, 8 years after the fact?
Somewhere around there.
Because that sure as shit worked for Sin City.
So, George of the Jungle 2. I'm going to assume you saw George of the Jungle 1. If not, I'll try to give brief recaps. But George of the Jungle 2 opens up with Christopher Showerman, I believe is his name. He's now our new George. And they reference New George. They keep calling him New George.
Behold all the new. He's like a new car air freshener.
Mind you, they also recast Ursula, but she's not new Ursula. She's Ursula. They
recast a couple people.
Yeah.
They just didn't seem to recast Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. But that's the only one they brought attention to.
Yeah, but apparently he was making Looney Tunes back in action, so I guess Disney was like, curse you, Fraser!
Working
Going
with the
to
enemy.
Warner Brothers!
So when it came down, they are living in the jungle peacefully for the past couple years. They have a kid. He's like 5 years old. His name's Junior. He's trying to teach Junior how to swing on vines, but Junior just wants to tree surf, like he saw in the popular movie Tarzan. That's totally not also owned by Disney. There's like 4 plots. Let me try to get them all.
Tarzan is referenced multiple times in this.
Let me try to get them all. So plot number 1 is that George is having problems splitting his time up between being king of the jungle and a good husband. He spends too much time with the animals from Ursula's perspective, too much time with his wife from the animals' perspective. And there is a character named Really Mean Lion who wants to take the throne back from George because apparently lions were king and they ruled the throne and never trust anyone without fangs. All voiced by Michael Clark Duncan. May he rest in peace.
And also, from what I understand, that the writer of this movie, Jordan Moffat, this was the last official credit on their filmography. The one that they did before that, like Mike, the little Bow Wow movie where he finds Michael Jordan's shoes hanging from the power lines. I saw that movie in the fucking theater.
I don't remember how I saw it, but I remember seeing it. Anyway, so
I'm surprised it hasn't written anything else.
Yep. So this
that movie made money.
That was plot 1. Plot 2 is that Ape named Ape is in Vegas and he's in gambling debts, and he is
voiced by John Cleese.
And he's forced to stay there against his will, performing in Vegas for Lyle, who is the boyfriend of Ursula or whatever, the fiance or whatever, from the first movie, who makes a return in this movie.
It's Thomas Hayden Church as Lyle Van de Groot.
Yep. So that's plot 2. Plot 3 is that the mother of Ursula returns and tries to convince her to come back to society in order to marry her off to Lyle Van de Groot again. And also they want the deed for Ape Mountain from George so that they can build a resort or something on Ape Mountain. Those are the 3 plots for the most part.
Is it though?
You get a couple characters, Armando the hypnotist, Rocky the kangaroo.
Both voiced by the same people.
Yep.
And also I'd like to also mention that the actor who played that role, John Kassir, is the Crypt Keeper from Tales of the Crypt.
Yep.
Much better role. Though I will say, Armando was my favorite character in this whole thing.
He had the crazy eyes going on. It was great. So those are the plots. For the most part, it just goes... they manage to sow some doubt into George's head. George lets them come back to Las Vegas, where he can run into Ape.
George looks good in Armani, too.
2. Specifically, new George looks good in Armani.
Yeah.
Referencing how George 1 also had Armani.
They mentioned multiple times that Brendan Fraser is not in this movie.
Yep. And they said, in fact, the narrator's like, and in case you were wondering, new George takes a tree just as well as Brendan. It's like, okay, narrator, I wasn't wondering.
And it's funny because in the very beginning of the movie, he says, is like, because movie studio couldn't afford Brendan Fraser.
Movie studio too cheap for
But according to IMDb trivia, which of course you have to take with a grain of salt, Brendan Fraser didn't know about this movie when it was being made.
He wasn't offered, period.
Yeah, he wasn't offered anything about this film, so he actually said that he would be interested in coming back for it, which I think that he's probably glad that he didn't.
Yeah.
You did make a lot of weird choices in the mid to late 2000s there, buddy.
So the movie continues.
The mummy returns.
He gets to America. He meets up with Ape. He discusses what to do about the whole dealing with Ursula and the other animals.
I wanted Ape to own his own casino at that point.
It would have been good.
Well, that would have been more interesting.
Yeah,
I wanted him to be a really nasty gambler with a severe addiction and a coke habit.
Then Ursula gets hypnotized to believe that George is not her husband, and Lyle is in fact the husband. They get the deed for Ape Mountain. They start plowing it down, and George and Abe have to get back to
Ape Mountain.
Get back to Ape Mountain, convinced that Ursula is his wife again, and defeat Lyle. The order in which things are done here are they they get back to Ape Mountain. He stops all the things with like coconuts, and they're all the bulldozers by like throwing coconuts and like
shit.
And literal shit.
Yep, catapulting shit, hitting the bulldozer people in the face.
They then get Ursula to remember
in
by
a bee's nest.
Yes, by kissing. George's kiss sparks the memories again
because she hears fireworks and hears wedding bells
yep.
and like cheering.
And Lyle is defeated because he insults the narrator, and the narrator literally comes through the clouds, picks him up, and just carries him away.
Very Monty Python, hand of God type of stuff.
Like, yep, that's just how that happened. And then it showed, they renew their vows, and everyone lives happily with the new arrangement. Oh, and he defeats the lion, the really mean lion, by just scratching it behind the ears and putting it
goes into the ear, and
he literally makes a comment afterwards like, George wishes all of his problems were this easy.
And the one thing that you really get into the first part is the fourth wall breaking. Like, there is no fourth wall.
The first part, the middle part, the end part, every part of this movie is just meta.
It's extremely meta. And honestly, as much as I don't think that it pulled it off particularly well, I honestly think that is really the only way they could have taken this sequel.
Yeah.
Because, A, I don't know what the market was for this movie. I don't think that there has ever existed a market for this film.
For George of the Jungle.
For George of the Jungle 2. Like, it would be different if you had Brendan Fraser back.
Here's the thing. I don't think there was a market for George of the Jungle 1. It was only because of Brendan Fraser being
he was
at his peak.
Yeah, well, one of his peaks anyway. He seems to be kind of like doing things like that, which I'm glad, because I think the guy has talent.
Yep.
But on this one, you don't have Brendan Fraser's charisma.
No.
You don't have his screen presence. And there is no chemistry between any of these actors. They look like mannequins. They look like animatronics.
Yeah.
They don't look like people. They're like, wow.
You get over it after a little while, but
you get used to it. You don't get over it.
You get over the part I was saying you get over after a while is not Brendan Fraser.
Not Brendan Fraser. New Brendan Fraser.
He's got really, really white teeth.
Unnaturally.
Oh my god.
Christopher Showerman.
Yeah, I said that. I got that one right.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that was he was it's just like it stands out. You get past it after a little while, but it's just like, damn, man, you live in the jungle, and it just really stands out.
Dude, you got better teeth than me, and you don't even have dental.
But like, throughout the whole movie, it's just meta jokes and it's pretty much most of its humor is these sort of meta jokes, where if it's not directly referencing the last movie, like Lyle's introduction, it has him sitting there on the phone, and the narrator's like, "You remember Lyle, right?" And it shows a clip from the first movie where he trips into elephant shit.
Yeah.
And then Lyle specifically says, like, that was the clip you had to use.
Yeah, like.
But if it's not directly referencing the last movie, it's meta in the fact that they're pretty much always playing off the narrator.
Yeah.
There's very rarely
the narrator
jokes.
never goes away.
No.
It's never about providing exposition and then providing the epilogue. It's about constantly
It's also
commenting.
never a point of anyone ever literally having an emotional beat on their own. There's one point where Ursula is backstage at like a circus, and she was just like, and Ursula wondered if things would ever be back to the way they were before. And a literal fucking thought bubble shows up to say the words, I wonder if everything will ever be back to the way it was before.
And it wouldn't have been as bad if they hadn't used the exact same joke already earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, the entirety of the film is
Ursula
just
wonders.
recycling the same jokes over and over again.
Which I guess is kind of the point of George of the Jungle with the whole watch out for that tree.
Yeah,
It's
and I get it.
literally-
Like, but that's another reason why, how in the world can you stretch out this idea into another feature film where you barely had enough of that stuff to fill out the first movie?
Mm-hmm.
And most of that film was about, from what I remember, of course it's been years since I've seen the first George of the Jungle. I probably was like 13 or something like that. So probably when this movie came out was like the last time I saw the first George of the Jungle. I remember a lot of that being involved with George's wacky antics with the modern world.
Yeah.
And
Fish
stuff
out
like
of
that.
water
The
story.
fish out of water story.
Yeah.
You have nothing to do with that here.
No.
Like, he never once, he seems, he's got that, oh, George does this, George does that, and he swings everywhere somehow like he's fucking Spider-Man. But at the same time, though, I think that one of the problems is that it's so meta that it becomes complete self-parody.
Yeah.
There's not... it references constantly, like, oh, you didn't think we wouldn't bring this gag. Like, they had, like, the Empire State Building thing with, like, the King Kong gag.
When
like,
the ape is climbing the Las Vegas version of the Empire State Building.
So they're like, oh, you didn't think we would pass up on this parody,
but
did you? I'm like, but that's not a parody. That's a reference.
But even then, it couldn't even let just that sit. It couldn't just be like, oh, look, an ape on the Empire State Building. What then they cut to is the fact that the mother character is watching George and the ape do this on television.
Yeah.
And Ursula walks in being like, oh, what's this? Having her memory erased.
King Kong.
It's like, oh, it's King Kong. It's like, yeah, thanks for exactly spelling it out. Come on, guys. Give a little bit of credit here.
And maybe that's one of the major problems with the film is the fact that its parody and its self-reference and its fourth wall breaking, its meta aspects are in and of itself just complete pandering.
Oh, yeah.
That it is like, okay, it's like somebody says the joke and says it and you don't laugh, so they say it again.
Yeah.
And then they explain the answer. It's like, you get it? You sure you get it?
And there is a way...
You're not laughing, so you obviously don't get it.
There is a way to play that up and get in then to, like, the cringe level of comedy.
Yeah.
But this was obviously not where that was.
No, this was meant, like, honestly, this kind of reminds me a little of, was it the Flintstones?
Yeah.
Movie.
Which,
and
that was one of the things when I went on the IMDb profile. I was like, oh, you like this movie? Here's some other movies you like, mate. And it was the Flintstones movie, where it's just like...
And Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas came out in 2000, but that still was 3 years afterwards.
No, I definitely feel this was...
Starring Stephen Baldwin.
I genuinely think this was just an idea where, like, they had a spec script floating around, and they're just like, should we do it now? Yeah, why not?
It's barely even a script. It's just like a... It's like a... Was it a... There's a great documentary series about the beginning of comedy in filmmaking, and they interview Frank Capra, the great director for, like, It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and stuff like that. But he was saying that during the early days for comedies, all the plot was just a clothesline to hang gags on. And that is exactly what you have here. The story means absolutely nothing. If you look at the description on Netflix for what the main plot of the story is, that's literally barely even a subplot of the actual film.
It's about
it's about the lion.
Really mean lion taking back over the throne, which
when
is
lions were king.
completely inconsequential.
Well, lions aren't king anymore, okay?
And then
okay, Michael Clark Duncan.
You look at the IMDb, like the short little blip it has there. George, now a father, goes to Las Vegas where he has to help out his brother. Again, barely even the plot. Most of the plot is about...
So it's like you have that definition, you have that definition. I have no doubt that, like, on Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes, they're two different definitions too. So no one really understands what this movie should be about. No. It's exactly mirroring a lot of the same beats from the first movie, with full meta awareness that this is actually taking place, but it does nothing with it. It is just constantly like, oh, look, we're doing the same shit again. Isn't this fun? Aren't we having fun now? We have their money, right? We have their money. Okay, we're having fun. We are having fun now.
Well, even then, you would think once they have the money, it's just like, all right, well, that's enough.
Yeah, and again, like, especially considering the fact that this was one of Disney's first direct-to-DVD release type films that they, like, as a part of their actual distribution model, this movie, it was made to be cheap, to be sold cheaply, and to make a cheap profit. Like, no, the worst part of this movie, without a doubt, is the special effects. Which is hysterical when you think about it, because now Disney is Industrial Light and Magic.
Yeah.
Is LucasArts.
The first shot of this is a jungle scene, which may or may not be real, I don't know, but they have Shep, the dog elephant, running across the field.
The dog elephant.
It's not a good...
Anything that you see Shep in, anything you see Rocky in, anything you see, what's the pelican, the parrot?
Toucan.
The toucan.
Tukey.
The toucan and whatnot.
Tukey.
Whatever, it's a fucking bird.
I like Tukey. I think they actually did a good
job. We like Tukey because all he says is that.
I genuinely think they did an okay job with some of Tukey. Like, when it's just it flying on the screen or whatever, then that's bad. But when it's interacting with people, either it was an animatronic or it was a very well-trained bird.
See, like, it's a mix. It's a mix because there's a couple shots I remember specifically with George and interacting with Tukey that It just looks fucking awful.
Well, there was one scene, particularly when he was flying in to talk to Ape at the cards table.
Yeah.
It flew in, and you see a knocked over drink as it flies
Yeah.
in. And I'm like, okay, either that was real or it was really well done.
Or they at least have some practical real world effects going on at that time to at least give us the idea that there's immersion taking place.
I want to completely break everything we're talking about right now to just say something I saw on the wiki page. A week prior to release, the Caterpillar company, the ones that make like bulldozers and all that,
Yeah.
apparently they sued over concerns of the trademark constituted damage
That
to its
explains why
reputation.
all of the bulldozers are blank.
Yeah, they were all blank, but I guess it was close enough. They were unsuccessful, but they tried. So
I mean,
I just saw that.
you
I'm like,
tried to sue Disney?
they tried to sue Disney over George of the Jungle 2.
Of all movies you should sue Disney over, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be that one. There's a handful of other Disney films that you should aptly sue.
Yeah. But no, that's okay. So
Could name a couple.
I don't even know where to go. Besides, like, character-wise of George.
There are no
and-
characters. There are no characters. They are cartoons.
Yeah, they are literally
There's
the
no
most
depth.
caricature. The evil guys.
What you see on their face is what they are feeling inside.
The
That is
evil
it.
guys are evil for the sake of being evil.
Yeah.
The naive ones are naive because they have to be naive. The only ones I would say have any sort of actual depth to them at all are John Cleese's The Ape Named Ape.
Yeah.
Just because he's actually given something to do. He's been away from the jungle for 6
Something's
years.
changed.
And yeah, he's not literally in the exact same position that we left him in. But that end, it wasn't done anything with, but they could have. The kid.
Yeah.
His kid is that
He was only brought in as a plot convenience.
he was brought in as plot convenience of like, oh, George's father now. He has to figure out what that means because that's his fish out of water. It's like, I've never been a father. Yeah, no shit. Neither has every other father before they're a father.
Yeah, that's how that works.
But the biggest thing is that it's a thing where it's like almost where he's like the bridge between the jungle world where like he knows about tree surfing and he's super excited about getting a spear for his birthday, but he also knows his mom's side and like he's the one who knows how to turn off the bulldozer and he's super excited over a thing that his grandma gets him of like a robotic dog.
Yeah.
Like he's almost the bridge between those two worlds, but they do nothing with that at all.
Any possible goodwill the movie does drum up, it completely erases on its own accord because it just does nothing with the material that it tries to give us.
Yeah, there are a few bits where last name Church, well, Lyle, his actor, he does like genuinely comedic line reads and like stuff at that point to the point where I think they weren't written in. I think it was just him like ad-libbing a little bit, and he does a great job with it because I've seen him in other stuff and he's a funny enough actor when he's given the chance.
Given a decent script to work
Yeah,
with.
but the one is Easy A.
Oh yeah.
He was teaching that. He was
Yeah,
funny in
yeah.
that. But like
That was a fun movie.
There's one point in this where, like, in the first movie, George shows his kinship with animals by running with horses in the stable back when he was in America. And in
I
this,
love animals.
in this,
See?
he tries to reenact that.
Horses
And George
love
doesn't say,
me.
horses. It grabs onto a horse's tail, and you just see this dummy
Horses
love me.
Yeah.
And that's genuinely funny because
There were a few moments where I was like, ha!
yeah, because where they're playing a thing. The problem is that almost every other scene, it's one of those like meta jokes that fall flat. Or for the first 10 minutes of the movie, they wouldn't stop playing the opening theme.
Every couple of minutes, they just keep doing the thing. I think it was like 4 times.
4
I think.
times, yep.
Now, thankfully, they didn't bring it back up again for like another half hour.
Yeah.
I know. I kept track. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. Like, again, like, I know this movie is a cash grab.
Yeah.
Everything about this movie is a cash grab. This movie is more of a cash grab than the second Goofy movie.
This movie is more of it's enough of a cash grab that they weren't even willing to wait on their main actor to be available again. They were
Yeah.
just like, nah, fuck it, we're just gonna do it.
And also, the thing that really boggles my mind is the amount of time that they waited before they made this movie again. It was 8 years, 7, 8, 9 years, or somewhere in the between where that gap happened.
Yeah.
Any of the possible audience you had for the first movie was grown up at that point.
Yeah.
Like, they were not interested in it. And really, unlike a lot of the movies where we've seen where like you have to see the first one in order to get this, you could watch this one and not watch the first, and you won't miss out on anything.
No, I mean you're gonna miss out.
You're not getting anything.
You're gonna miss out on like slightly deeper characterizations.
You're missing out on Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, fair enough. But you're gonna miss out on deeper characterizations for like the mother, the fiance, the African guide people.
Yeah,
they had a much larger role in the first movie than they did in this one.
Yeah, all of these characters were just kind of shunned to the side. Though I will say though that one scene earlier in the movie where the mom is just like ragging into them, and they're just like
they just fantasize about throwing.
Let's throw her off a cliff. So like they actually do it, and then the narrator like rewinds the movie, basically say, "No, we can't have that, or we can't have a story." It reminds me of the Stanley Parable.
I was gonna say, what if the narrator just went full funny games with it?
Yeah. Oh God. It's like. What about you? You want some dramatic resolution, conflict resolution? You might, right?
Yes.
Check out Funny Games.
Oh yeah, that's another thing with the narrator. I don't know. It was at the very end of the credits. The narrator jumps in and he's like, "Well, everyone got their happy endings except for me. No one cares about the narrator." And then another female narrator pops in. He's
How's
like,
it going?
"Who are you?"
I'm the narrator from Mulan.
Oh well.
I don't remember any narrator in Mulan. If you remember a narrator in Mulan, let us know. But I don't remember a narrator.
Not at all. But that was just one of those things where it's like, it's just those meta jokes, and it's literally right up until the end. The blooper reel that plays during the credits isn't actually bloopers. They're the VFX artists just fucking around.
You know what's really messed up? When I'm thinking about this is that this movie, I'm going to double check the date to make sure I have it right. This movie...
October 23rd, 2003. I don't know. Oh, you're looking up another one. Okay. Oh yeah, that is right around the time. Keep backing up there.
2003.
Yeah.
So it's about the same time. So this movie is heavily reliant on meta comedy.
Yep.
You know, the effects that they're in a movie. That is literally the framework of Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Yeah.
The entire thing is meta. It's either at the end of the movie, Brendan Fraser runs into the actor version of Brendan Fraser, and he comments on the fact that he constantly is a dick and he gets people fired. Like, that's fucking funny. Also considering the fact he's like, you know, the Mummy movies, I was way more in that than Brendan Fraser ever was. Like, that is funny.
I feel like that may be one of the things where it's like it's crosstalk between studios.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, we're doing like sort of a meta Brendan Fraser movie. And Disney was just like, shit, didn't we have Brendan Fraser?
Is something?
We did. Yeah, no, let's do that again and make it meta, because that's apparently happening over there.
But Brendan's not able to do that. Fuck it. Give someone that we've never put in a movie before.
Yeah, it literally says introducing Christopher Showerman.
Yeah.
Okay, so just wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Final thoughts for me, this movie is definitely trash. It's not offensive.
Garbage.
It's not offensive anyway. It's not like I was sitting there being like, oh my... how dare they do that in today's modern political... No,
this is an Amber Alert.
It's literally the first movie with, like halfway through, they decide, like, well, what if this happened instead? And they, like, tweak the plot ever so slightly.
There does seem to be a lot of studio interference with this movie,
and from what I remember of the first movie, this had a lot more meta to it. But it also had a lot more just, like, less time and effort put in as well.
And the jokes never go anywhere. It's a joke for the joke's sake. It's never to progress the plot at all.
And even then, like, if it was a funny joke, but for the most part, it's just like, oh, look at that, they're running down the casino thing and it's hitting jackpots everywhere.
Well, again, it goes back to what I said before. They're trying to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at you and hoping that you'll laugh at stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I did make it through the movie with laughing at a few things.
Yeah. And I guess if that was your goal, you'd hit it, because there were occasionally a few. There was the one that I laughed at was the fact that Abe's playing poker with the guys. He says, you gotta know when to hold them.
Yeah.
No. And the second time that comes around, he just immediately jumps up and strangles the guy for singing it so often.
I know that song and whatnot, but I don't remember the dude.
For me, it's just a general...
Was it Kenny Chesney?
Probably, but that wasn't the guy in the movie.
Yeah.
So no, it was completely just entirely forgettable. It was not something that you need to ever seek out. If you want to, fine. But from what I hear, there was a cartoon series that was made much more recently. That probably has more laughs than this does. So watch that instead.
Also, the narrator for this movie, Keith Scott, played the voice of Bullwinkle in the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle movie in 2000.
They made a couple jokes about now for something completely different.
Yeah.
So that might be a reference to that. But again, your references are a little bit shallow. So
Yeah, all right. So overall, this isn't even really a movie that I enjoyed because of how bad it was. It was, 'cause David looked over and I'm just like holding my head for a
constantly.
Like, it's not like Space Thunder Kids, which its ineptitude is fucking hysterical, and you should totally watch that movie with as many people as possible because you'll make a great drinking game out of it. This movie, nothing about it is entertaining. It's not even entertaining in the fact that it's bad. It's bad in a way that it's tired. It's tired badness. In other words, meaning that it is a bad that you have seen so many times before. It's a generic kind of bad. It's a forgettable kind of bad. We will not remember the minute details of this film a month from now. I will not. I'm struggling to remember it now, and we watched it today.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is, though, it's not enjoyable as a bad film. It's not enjoyable as a funny film. It's not enjoyable as a fun film. It's just simply not enjoyable. Unless you're a child who has no taste in movies that has been constructed yet, you might find this funny. But at the same time, though, like, it reminds me, because we had also talked about this before, it reminds me of, like, the Donkey Kong animated series and stuff like that, where most of that is absolutely trash.
Yep.
There's a couple moments here and there that is ridiculous and funny and kind of surreal in certain ways, but at the same time, that's pretty much it. I didn't expect anything from this movie. It gave me even less.
Yeah.
And overall, I can't even recommend this movie as fodder. And I like doing that. I like the fact that, hey, you know, you watch this bad movie because they'll give you a hoot one way or another. But this one is just pain. It's just a movie that I didn't like at all throughout the entirety of it. When we were done it, I literally sat there and just kind of on the floor for a few minutes and said, all right, I feel like I have taken damage from this movie. It's a stupid movie made by probably stupid people for stupid reasons, and it made a little bit of money, and thus we are stuck with it in our lexicon for forever. Fuck you, Disney.
Well, in not so many words, those were our thoughts on
Georgia the Jungle 2.
2.
What's up?
New sneak peek scene from Disney's latest live-action remake. Great.
What, is that Mulan?
No, thumbnail looks a little too white to be Mulan.
So it's probably not Mermaid either.
Nope. George, let me tell you what you are. You're a fad. You are a circus freak. Plucked from the jungle and given a little bit of notoriety. But you know what that doesn't mean? It doesn't mean you know anything about what goes on here in Washington.
George knows. George understands.
No, George doesn't. Those congressmen out there, the ones you're lobbying every day, they are lions, all right? And they will devour you if you give them the chance.
Don't tell George about lions. George knows lions. George has fought lions. George has ruled over lions. George is not afraid of lions. I am not afraid of lions.
George, watch out for that tree.
George lost everything for this bill. The jungle, royalty, Ursula, everything. This bill must pass. It will.
George, you need 70 votes to get this bill passed. No one has ever gotten that amount of congressmen to change. How are you going to swing this?
George can do it. George is the king of swing.
We're going to this.
Yeah, we're going opening night, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Made possible by by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.